good afternoon, actually, to everyone. Thank you very much for being here, to being with us in this first meeting. This is the first meeting of 3 meetings or 3 conversations or dialogues that we are going to hold behind or under the title, What Will Gropius Do? A Century Later. It is promoted by Conexiones Improbables. I am Begoña López from Conexiones Improbables. And I just want to say that this meeting is going to be held in about 2 hours. We are going to do it in 3 different phases. All of this is going to be conducted or to be dynamized by Boris Majorin. He is an expert on internalization and interdisciplinary collaboration. So Boris Majorin, welcome. Thank you very much for your support, your work. Just present or introduce yourself, please.
Thank you, Begoña. We are going to spend a little bit less than 2 hours together right now. First of all, I like, of course, to thank all the participants and those who agreed to join us in this conversation, and they wanted to share their thoughts and their knowledge with us today. This event is going to lead us to a set of parallel conversations in the next weeks, which one is going to be led by one of you, one of our leading organizations. At the end of the session, we will have a full round of debate and questions, so do not hesitate to take your time to post all the questions on the chat, and we will try to answer them all right on time today. But if some question keeps unanswered, we are going to take the time to answer to you later by email or on our social networks. And of course, you can tweet, you can chat, you can Instagram, you can post wherever you want with the hashtags hashtag New European Bauhaus and the hashtag Gropius 2021. So please be sure that you have a nice environment to be comfortable for this conversation, and that you have plenty of water and coffee and possibly wine, as we are going to discover also with the help of one of our participants. So we have 7 topics for 8 organizations. We are going to tackle them all today, but first of all, let's go for a quick round to present our participants. So we have these topics, and we have sustainable and inclusive city with the creative industry Kosice in Slovakia, represented today by its director, Michal Kladky. Hi, Michal.
Hi, hello, everyone.
And we have digitalization and governance with WAAG Technology&Society Center from the Netherlands, represented today by Sander van der Waal. Hi, research director. And smart industry and services is another topic that is going to be led by PPNT Design Center in Poland with Paulina Kisiel, creative director. Hi, dzień dobry, Paulina.
Dzień dobry, hello, good afternoon.
And education and human development for sustainability is a topic that is going to be led by Navet Science Center from Sweden with Anna Gunnarsson. Hey, Hanna, välkomna på New European Bauhaus. We have a duet from Italy for culture, creativity and innovation is Matera Hub with Carlo Ferretti and Cineglossa with Federico Bomba.
Hi, everyone.
And
Hello.
then again, another topic is bioeconomy, food and health from the northernmost university of Italy, the University of Bolzano, with Emanuele Boselli, Associate Professor in Food Science and Technology. Hi, Emanuele.
Hello, everybody.
And then, last but not least, the future for all places and territorial cohesion is the topic that is going to be led by Spatial Foresight with Kai Böhme and Christian Luer, respectively director and policy analyst. They are joining us from Luxembourg and Germany.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
So this conversation is the launching event of a path that is going to lead us to dig deeper into this reflection for the new European Bauhaus under the title, What Would Gropius Do a Century Later? So let's break the ice with a welcoming thought by Roberto Gomez de la Iglesia, Director of Conexiones Improbables. Roberto, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, Spain, and welcome in representation of Conexiones Improbables from Vitoria-Gasteiz in the Basque Country. Welcome to this series of conversations about the European Bauhaus. Thank you, Boris and Begoña, for the introduction, and thank you to the 8 organizations involved to these conversations as thematic leaders around the following question: what would Gropius do a century later? And thanks to those who are following us through the video streaming and the social networks. Conexiones Improbables works in the creative economy in several areas. First, to advise organizations in the cultural and creative sectors so that they can consolidate, improve, and innovate. The second area of work has to do with developing creative cities and territories in which the work of devising a mix of policies is essential. Third, for us, working in the creative economy means making other economic and social sectors more creative and innovative. And this is where Conexiones Improbables comes into the game, with the idea of hybridizing to innovate. In other words, from boosting the creative sectors to innovating innovation in any sectors. Perhaps this was one of the dimensions that made that European Union choose us as an official partner of the European Bauhaus in the first round, among the first 13 recognized organizations. As you all know, in September 2020, the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, presented an initiative aiming to bring together the scientific, social, technological, artistic and cultural fields in the search for solutions to contemporary challenges. Her purpose was also to contribute to the bringing to life the European Green Deal. Europe thus recognized the need for a multidisciplinary approach to the search for sustainable solutions where soft technologies take on a new relevance. How does the European Bauhaus challenge us? Perhaps the answer to this question lies in strengthening the transversal nature of culture and creativity with all social and productive activities, bringing new perspective to our way of life, to the conception of our civic spaces and our homes, to our production systems, to our educational model, to our ways of relating internally and with the outside world, and reinforcing our collective commitment to sustainability and the good life of people. After all, the arts, culture and creativity and thought must serve to generate a new idea of value in our daily lives, based on values, and endow it with new shared meanings. Our societies are beginning to be aware of the urgency of sustainability, of the consequences of climate change, of the necessary energy transition, and they act as if 2030 were still a long way off. They are very focused on digitalisation and its technological impact in terms of efficiency in production processes, but perhaps they pay little attention to the ethical human dimension of this accelerated digitalisation. And then there is a third key element in the transformation of our societies and economies: creativity. Fundamental to any drive for innovation and yet still far removed from the collective European imagination. Sustainability, digitalisation and creativity must go hand in hand in development processes in a coherent and cohesive manner. We want to promote a through European Bauhaus spirit, looking at Europe, putting in permanent dialogue the arts, culture, design, architecture, science, to address a sustainability that goes far beyond the green, to rethink the role the A of arts plays in STEM educational processes, to bring creativity uplift to industry in its innovation processes, to redefine our habitat, not only in the architectural or constructive aspects on which the European Bauhaus initially placed great emphasis, to make cultural centers and spaces of everyday life a mixture between people, thoughts and disciplines. In short, to transform our territory into a great place to live and help to make all territories become great places to live. I invite you to open minds, perspectives and to contribute from our organizations to build an ambitious model for a more sustainable, inclusive and beautiful Europe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roberto. Thank you very much, Roberto Gomez de la Iglesia, Director of Conexiones Improbables. So today the idea is to work throughout all the disciplines and to really think out of the box. So, of course, we do it all the time a little bit in our daily life to try to find solutions. And of course, you are very high-level specialists in your whole domain, and some of you are already used to work with cross-innovation, with transdisciplinary projects and so on. But still, I think that these challenges that we have today needs to be taken to a next level. So let's step up our games today with this conversation. I'm going to propose to have a very quick round, a couple of minutes per participant, to introduce yourself. And of course, I want to remind you that this event is broadcasted live and it is also recorded. And of course, keep smiling all the time because we are going to take a lot of screen captures. So just keep smiling. Yes, so perfect. Paulina, it's fantastic. So let's start from sustainable and inclusive city, which is the topic that has been chosen and assigned to Kosice, to Michal Hladký, is with us from Kosice in Slovakia. Hi, Michal.
Thank you very much. So our organization was established originally to deliver European Capital of Culture projects, where Kosice was in 2013 an ECOC. And this was the really start of a beginning of exploring how culture and creative industries could really contribute to the...
So ECOC, the European Capital of Culture, all right. It's yes. The acronym, all right.
Yes. And so basically after European Capital of Culture, after 2013, we operate as an organization supporting individuals and organizations on their professional development in culture creative industries, helping them internationalize their businesses, connect arts and creative industries with other sectors, which is also a very important part of our work. We also, in 2017, got Kosice on the map of the global creative cities of a UNESCO Creative Cities Network in media arts.
Congratulations.
Because we also think that connecting digital technologies and creativity is one of the, let's say, competitive advantages of the city. And also this is something where the future is for also urban development, using digital and creativity for its development. And recently, we also got into urban development in terms of the service design. So we also focus a little bit on the data on urban services, service design, and public space as well.
Thank you very much, Michal. Do you see the results of all this work? Do you see how Kosice is changing?
Yes, and like you can say after 10, 13 years of work that it's obvious.
And we are going to hear more of you right after this round of introduction. And now we are going to the Netherlands with Sander van der Waal. Hi, Sander. You are taking care of the topic of digitalization and governance, and you are the research director at WAAG Technology&Society Center.
Yeah. Thanks, Boris, and very pleased to be part of this group and of this conversation. Actually, digitalization, governance, and citizenship are like three of the core sort of topics on which WAAG operates. We are a civil society organization based in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, but we're also a research institute focusing on methodologies which we summarize as public research. So we do research with and for the citizens and for the general public. And specifically, we focus on technology and the role of technology in society. We've been around for over 25 years now. Our founder, Marleen Sticker, is still our director and visionary for how technology should be deployed and developed in society, and specifically also designed. And the approach that we have include a lot of co-creation methodologies, inspiration from the commons, application of the commons in the digital domain. And we focus our research on experimentation on these different areas. So we think and are convinced that for digitalization of our societies to really take shape properly, citizens should be involved, and the governance methodologies are the ways in which that involvement should take shape. So it's quite nice to have these three themes combined that are under my topic. And I look forward to expanding a bit more on that.
Absolutely. So it is very interesting because we think about the Netherlands as a very developed country. So it's quite surprising. Do you think there is a need for the work of WAAG in our society right now? Why is it so important?
Absolutely. I think it's crucial that we rethink how technology is being developed. Often people are very much sort of overwhelmed by technology these days. It permeates through society on all levels, but often it's without sort of the involvement of the people who are concerned. So that ranges from big tech and fake news to the ways in which people get tracked on the streets through cameras that have facial recognition in them. In the Netherlands, there are issues around how governments work and use data to track their citizens. It's all over society. So I think it's very a pressing issue, and the cross-disciplinary approach that was also part of this series of conversations is crucial for us in order to tackle the challenges that we face around.
So, Sander, we count on you to guide us through this topic, which is digitalization and governance on you and on WAAG, of course. And let's go to Poland with Paulina Kisiel and PPNT Design Center, taking care of smart industry and services. Hi, Paulina.
Hello. Yes, I work for PPNT Gdynia Design Center. We mainly organize Gdynia Design Days, which is a festival that takes place every summer, and this year's edition will be really, really soon. So hopefully we'll be able to show a lot of projects and prototypes and social innovations within the new European Bauhaus movement as well. Also, we do support creative industry within the Pomeranian region and mainly in Poland as well. I also am a member of BIDA board, so I work with the different associations that are trying to create more policies within the Europe that will be based on design processes and design approaches. And hopefully in this conversation, I will be able to show you how smart industries can be developed and how much services can also create a new Europe that will be more sustainable.
Absolutely. Dziękuję, Paulina. Dziękuję bardzo. And of course, we look forward to hear from you because if I remember correctly, Gdynia is very close to Gdansk.
Yes,
and it is this tri-city metropolitan area.
Exactly, it is. Yes, we have Gdynia, then a smaller Sopot, and the biggest one, Gdańsk, and it's exactly called Tri-City.
And so exactly that industry is where the revolution started that make all the communism fall down. Yeah,
actually,
so you have. I hope you are not going to start a revolution today because I'm not ready. But if you are, please tell me.
Actually, the main group that kind of collapsed was Solidarity, and this year's theme of the Gdynia Design Days is pretty much the same. So we'll see what will happen.
That's perfect, Paulina. Thank you very much. And now let's jump to the topic of education and human development for sustainability, together with Anna Gunnarsson. Hey, Anna, from Sweden. So it's NAVET, the Science Center.
Pleasure to be here and represent education and human development for sustainability. I work at NAVET Science Center, which is a science center that acts not only locally in Borås, but also very much in the western part of Sweden and in all of Sweden and in Europe as well. We are a science center that aims at spreading the word about good sustainability and especially what happens in the world and around us in a good sense. And we are trying to engage as many people in the civil world as possible of all age groups. We start at the age of 3 with programs for sustainability, and then we move upwards with different programs for different age groups. It could be also for companies, it could be for different associations as such, and we try to follow and help in their development. One aim for us is to always act as a good representative for the SDGs, and now proudly for Bauhaus, and to work with all those issues in a way that you can spread the word of good things to do. So we are very much also collaborating with companies and other actors around us, doing fantastic work in the forefront. Things that usually don't get spread at all because people don't know about it. But we have the possibility of, in our exhibitions, to actually show fantastic things that are happening. And one thing that we especially work with is our young people between the age of 15 to 25, which is a focus group for sustainability, because we know that they are very much lost at the moment, especially when we talk about climate. So that is our main aim at the moment.
That's perfect, Anna. Tack så mycket. And
Varsågod.
let's go to Italy to our topic of culture, creativity, and innovation. That is going to become the topic of Matera Hub with Carlo Ferretti and Cineglossa with Federico Bomba. Buongiorno.
Okay, I start in charge of Matera Hub. So first of all, thank you to be here. I'm the responsible for the innovation and research department of Matera Hub. Matera Hub is a European organization based in the south of Italy, precisely in Matera. We care of supporting and empowering culture and creative industries, and we did during the last 10 years. So we did even during the European Capital of Culture 2019, when we support some of the projects of the European Capital of Culture. Precisely one of that is Silent City, produced by the organization L'Albero, which was a co-creative opera. And indeed, with Matera Hub at the moment, we are enhancing the research on 2 topics that I will be really glad to talk with you about that today, which is co-creation and cross-fertilisation. Precisely co-creation about the relation to arts and culture, and cross-fertilisation and the possibility of art to you know, like open and criticize what's going on with social transformation, digital transformation.
And it is very interesting. We look forward to hear from you because, of course, you have been transforming the city of Matera. Just to hear the voice of Federico Bomba.
Hi there, hello everyone. Thank you for being here. I just see that in this slide there is just the first part of my life till 2014, so I will say what happened next. Yeah, I was an artist, I was a theater director, and then I understood that for creating impact and to understand what art meant in daily life of people, we needed to change something. So Cineglossa became something else. And actually, I won't tell much about it because Roberto Della Iglesia told a lot about what he does. And actually, Cineglossa is doing more or less the same in Italy. What I can say, and it's the very big new thing here is that I don't have to say what I do, because usually it's very difficult to say what we do when we are in in any kind of place. And the new thing is that the new European Bauhaus opened a new line of thought, a new European paradigm, which has been pioneered by some organizations, and many of them are gathering here today. This makes me actually very happy that we are
perfect.
Working as a system now for the first time after some years that we are really trying to do that. So thank you.
Great. Grazie, grazie. Thank you very much, Federico. And of course, yes, the new European Bauhaus, actually it means hybrid is good, not only in terms of hybrid cars, but also in terms of culturally hybrid. And let's go to Bolzano to hear the voice of Emanuele Boselli, Associate Professor for Food Science Technology of the University of Bozen for the topic of bioeconomy, food and health. Hi, Emanuele.
Hello, Boris. Hello, everybody. Yes, the University of Bolzano is a small university with about 4,500 students. Our focus is not only academic teaching, but also scientific research and the so-called third mission, so technology transfer practically. We have 5 faculties, which are economics, science and technology, where I teach and work, art and design, computer science, and education. My specific focus is on the research on enology, so winemaking, and all the related aspects with wines. So, for instance, a lot of our activities is on the reduction of wastes in the wineries due, for instance, to wrong decisions during the winemaking process or later during the commercialization of wines. I am a chemist, to be honest, and I practically characterize the composition of wines and other food products to relate them with the processing technology, authenticity, and sensory evaluation as well, which are, I think, also quite an important highlight of the Bauhaus project.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you, Emanuele. And let's hear more from the topic that is called the future for all places and territorial cohesion. We have a dynamic duo, a double trouble from Luxembourg. It is Kai Bume and Christian Luer. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Boris, and thanks for inviting us. I start the double trouble, then Christian can complement and jump in. Spatial Foresight is a small company, so we're a little bit put one out here maybe, working mainly in the field of spatial or territorial development and policies. A lot of that related to governance issue and processes, and our focus is really on the European level. So everything from European policies or analysis to local or regional or national that have a European perspective. And we do I would say mainly two things. We, on the one hand, analyze quite a lot of territorial development across Europe, analyze policies for territorial development, but then we also support policy making or policy processes, and often with an eye towards the future. So at the moment, we work on a number of transnational visions and scenarios across Europe. So that's bringing in a little bit the spatial dimensions. Things happen at certain places, and how does that link together in Europe?
Yes,
I'm sure
absolutely.
Christian can say more.
Yes, Christian, please go.
Yes, maybe just a few sentences, well, 2 or 3 sentences. Kai mentioned how the links within between Europe, and I think one particular topic that's quite interesting also for me personally are border areas, because these are really like the breaking lines in Europe. On the one hand, on the other hand, they also connect us. And somehow they overlap between the different administrative or with the administrative levels. And I think especially there, it's interesting to see some conflicts on the one hand between national sphere, public spheres, national focus in media and politics. And on the other hand, how people in these areas, for example, like in Bolzano, for them it's quite natural to live across borders, to have identities across borders. I think that's a particular interesting element in our work, because that's really where the links come in play and where they become very, very relevant to make Europe a more united and more sustainable, beautiful, creative continent for all of us.
Thank you very much, Kai and Christian. Of course, it is interesting in this kind of project to have a spatial and geographical dimension to take account of. So we are going to have a next round of this conversation, and we are going to give you a little bit more time to explain, to present how do you intend to tackle your topic and what is the new European Bauhaus for you. And of course, we are going to keep the order, and we are going to start with sustainable and inclusive city. Of course, keep smiling, keep tweeting, and everything is going to be just fine. Michal Hladký from Slovakia.
What do I understand in our topic, sustainable and inclusive city? So basically, it's the city which creates the future together with its citizens. So the understanding of a city, as Roberto already said in his introduction, is not just about the built environment, but it's about the life and the citizens, which is enabled or it's present in the city and animates and gives all the meaning to all the buildings and spaces. And this is where creativity gets in, and creativity as a source of innovation and source of empowerment to embrace the change, because we live in the VUCA world, which really changes rapidly. And that's where the cities should play a critical role to empower its citizens to come up with the new ideas and come up with the decisions, basically, and communicate together with the citizens what the future for the city looks like. Next slide, please. Yeah, so how can you, European Bauhaus, have an impact in this field? So it's I really admire this idea of bringing the Bauhaus and Gesamtkunstwerk and the holistic approach to paint a new picture for the future, for the cities and for the Europe. So this is where I really see as an inspiration. So this is something which is very important, to have a new source of ideas and new source of the inspiration for the future. And we really see the creativity and arts and design and things that makes life beautiful as something for the inspiration for European cities. So next slide, please. So with the cross-fertilisation or cross-sectorial collaboration, as I already said, we work with this idea bringing digital technologies and creativity as a source for innovation, but it's also the role of cross-fertilisation is the understanding that we see the city as an open platform where all the connections are possible and all the connections are make very inclusive. So you can embrace the technology, you can embrace the social aspects, you can really work holistic way to the well-being of your citizens. Next slide. So what specific role do you give the creative aspects in your field and in the new European Bauhaus? So for us, or for me, the creative industries or art and culture and creativity is something which could bring us a new future narratives for the city, so could really tell us stories about the future, could really be a vital energy coming from the citizens, from their talents, and cities should, or at least they have to be able to grasp it. And also creativity should be embedded in all the design of the services and also environment we design for the cities, and it should be really responsible. So this green element should be there as well.
Yes, and Michal, I know we asked you for 3 examples, but maybe can you pitch just the most interesting one?
Yeah, could you just go to the next slide? For us, the most important, or the highlight is the cross-sectorial collaboration we run, and also Conexiones does it, bringing artists and creatives into other sectors, because we really believe that all the innovation happens on the edges where different worlds meet together.
Do you have like a specific example of something that really is a good example of what you would like to do, or how you imagine things to do something from the past?
Really concrete examples could also refer to the work Tilt does, or Conexiones, or we did, like really use artists, for instance, to help city officials make decisions, visualize data, or helping them with the communication and using language to approach the citizens, for instance.
So it is really about the engagement.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much, Michal. And now we are going back to Amsterdam with Sander van der Waal. So Sander, if alsjeblieft, please let us know how you want to tackle your topic of digitalization and governance.
Yeah, thank you. First, take the opportunity to show you our building. It's the WAAG in Amsterdam. I wanted to show that during my introduction, but it's where I'm based right now. It's an old gate to the city of Amsterdam. But to explain the context of the theme of digitalization, governance, and citizenship, and what I understand by that, I want to take you through the story of what we call the public stack, which is a model that we've developed, where we're looking at the way in which technology is being deployed in society and proposing a different way of doing this. And we think we should do that differently by really looking at the foundation. So the bottom layer of our public stack is the way in which we think about the starting points and assumptions by which technology gets designed and deployed in society. We think about how fundamental human rights and public values are embedded within the technology that we design together. We take care of the governance mechanisms and processes and the oversight over the technology when we think about how technology should be deployed in society. And we look at critically actually to socio-economic considerations, because often right now technology is being deployed through economic means where profit maximization is often in imbalance with the well-being of our societies. So when we think about the theme, this is like the foundational layer of 4 sort of pillars by which we think about how governance and citizenship should be embedded within the way in which we deploy technology. So that this is our approach for the theme, for the conversation. And then when we look at the new European Bauhaus, we go up to the next level of our public stack, which is where the design process is. And we really think that that's a crucial element where connections with other other fields of endeavor and other disciplines are crucial. So we think about how these foundational layers of respecting rights, thinking about governance and participation of citizens can take place through a design process which is inclusive and ensures the sustainability of our society. So this is really where we see the possible impact for the Bauhaus. And then when we think about sort of cross-fertilisation strategies, we think about what it is that we're developing and designing, which is all the different layers of the technology stack, if you will. So all the way through to the infrastructure of cables under the sea and our land, the GPS satellites that allow us to know where we are on the meter, all the way up to the applications and the apps on our phones that we use into a day-to-day basis. On all of these levels, we need to ensure that we sort of understand better what the role is of technology within education, for example, or how we think about the way in which we design our cities, etc. And then the fourth point, the specific role with regards to creative aspects in this endeavor, we think about context layers of the stack. So there are a couple of elements in technology that are across all the different levels. So service level is one of them, but also the protocols and standards, the way in which data gets shared and algorithms gets developed. We need a different way of approaching that, and we need the creativity of Europe in order to develop technology in a different way. So let me end by giving 3 examples very briefly.
Maybe just one, Sander, if you don't mind, the most meaningful one, please.
Oh, that's difficult, Boris. You asked me to choose among the 3 ones.
I know.
Okay, let me just take the first one, because that means I don't really need to choose. So we're part of a European network that is developing around creating digital public spaces. So we think about how the public spaces that we have right now in the physical realm actually doesn't exist in that same way in our online spaces. So we're part of a European initiative which is developing this concept of digital public spaces and ensuring that we have on the internet places which are similarly public as we know them from our public spaces in the physical realm. I think this is a really interesting example which connects well to the new European Bauhaus as an opportunity to bring together these different perspectives from across Europe and help sort of create the European public sphere in a similar way. So let me skip over the other 2 then, Boris, and stop there. Thank you.
Thank you well, Sander. It is really interesting, and it is very interesting how you have this graphic vision of a sectional look at technology and how it is enveloping us in all the ways. So it really gives us the importance of your topic, and I look forward to see what you are going to cook with your partners. So let's go back to Gdynia, to Poland, to Paulina Kisiel. Paulina, okay. About smart industry and services. What is going to be your take, your point of view?
I don't need to introduce myself anymore because I did already, so we can skip this one. And talking about smart industries and services, we were asked how do we understand it, but I asked even further question, what is the price of digitalization and bringing smart industries into our lives? So is it taking away our freedom, creativity, and imagination, because we are really covered and surrounded by services that are run digitally. Next slide, please. So I found this Shoshana Zuboff quote that said, once we search Google and now Google is searching us. Next slide, please. So I was wondering, how can the new European Bauhaus help in terms of reducing those disadvantages of the digital? And because new European Bauhaus has its underlines, which is beautiful, sustainable, and together, I divided this into maybe trying to focus on how the technology can be, in terms of being beautiful, how can it serve more people? How can it follow the planet instead of following the human needs, and how can we form a different value than a form. Of course, within the sustainability, we need to avoid digital waste and pollution, which a lot of people are not talking about. And in terms of circular economy, we need to kind of refocus on other aspects of circularity, which is refusing, reducing, and repairing. And in terms of being together and being more inclusive, we need to create design that is more bringing into account people who are a variety of personas. We need to avoid biased data and to reduce social differences. Next slide, please. In terms of showing you the cross-disciplinarity, I was also trying to focus on that smart industries and services are based on all the surrounding and context where we have buildings and cities. And I'm really glad that other people are here that are covering other themes. So maybe I will go into my last slide, please, and just show you the, another one, please. Just show you the example of data being used in a way that it shouldn't be used. We had this really, really nice project done by Wiesław Bartkowski, and it's showing you how, based on the left side, which is true person, the right-hand side is just digitally created. So we need to be aware of how the digitalization and the smart industry can make us stupid. So let's be careful.
Yes, absolutely. This is a very good example and a very inspiring presentation as the other two. Thank you very much, Paulina. Just a quick question. So, do you think that is it too late to do something, or do you think we are on time to do something on this topic?
I think that we are just right on the edge of being in between too late and, you know, not having opportunity to work on things. But this is something that New European Bauhaus hopefully will change. And also I think current crises like pandemic and change of approach of how we work will just help us to change in the future.
Yes, and we saw from Michal Hladky from Kosice that sometimes it's good to be on the edge. It is a good point of view to be cross-fertilizing and hybridizing and try to find solution. Anna Gunnarsson from Sweden for education and human development for sustainability. I ask you to prepare yourself while I thank very much Paulina Kisiel from Gdynia. Anna.
Important points to make about this issue, topic, and the European Bauhaus. To work with sustainability, of course, is for everyone, everywhere. We cannot leave anybody behind because it's a democratic right to actually act on these issues. And the people that we have around us that feel that they're not part of it, that is the challenge we need to take. Because we need to understand why we need to take action for the Sustainable Development Goals. And for education, this is a crucial issue because there is a spread of science knowledge not being so, how should I put it, so high up in the feeling of how you should sort of live your lives as far as education. And schools and the informal education are the keys to spreading this knowledge about sustainability because we actually meet all citizens, all kids, everybody, if we work together. So formal education in school and informal education has to be involved in the sustainability drive, so to speak. And the voices of people must be ours. Go. Next slide, please. And what we can do in the new European Bauhaus impact, because it's a huge impact that we have in this. But it's spreading all the good things that we're already doing, and that's a lot. And we need to find new ways together, as we all have said so far. And that means making people come together for action, not only getting knowledge in your body, so to speak. We need to do things in action that other people will see. And we need to encourage the way to find new solutions, of course. Mm-hmm. Next one, please. And the cross-fertilisation is drive, I think, for everything. And those activities that we have that maybe mainly aim at one group as students, they are generally just as good for others. So we at our Science Center world, we need to develop new ideas, new ways of communicating all these things. And by then, we can actually meet a lot of people and make it known to everybody. And all those people from different groups, they need to meet and work together, because that is where the action will take place. Next one, please. And the three creative aspects in my field, and there are many more, of course, but the issue of finding new creative challenges in this field is very central. We need to have a mix of people from different fields to guarantee creative solutions, because if we're just in our little bubble or something, nothing good will happen, because then we think that somebody else somewhere else is doing either something better than we are, giving us a bad feeling about ourselves, or it's about we don't know what others are doing. And the positive expectations on education and human development is really something that warms my heart, because that is something new, I think, in Bauhaus compared to many other EU possibilities, and that they're actually saying that education is important, and that is a goal to work together with education to spread the word and to make a change. Next one, please. And the experience, ideas, and actions are many, of course, but to really communicate the sustainability things around us, we need to leave our comfort zones and our fan bases, because we all have them. We have all our groups that we work with, and we think that we're doing all these good things. Yes. But as long as we are in those zones, we're actually not moving forward. Mm-hmm. And the sustainability and the fulfillment on the SDGs are for everybody. I work a lot with international projects about sustainability, like in Indonesia, now in Vietnam. And that is important, that we feel that this is for everybody and that we can learn and make it happen together. And also the collaboration, the locally, nationally, and internationally. We need to find the new ways and thoughts. And it's too small to actually not, just act in your local community, especially in Europe when we are so close to each other. And we need to see our differences as an asset in the fight for a more sustainable world. But there is a beware. There are troublemakers around. So beware where you're acting and what you're doing. And yes. We were also asked to say something about the most important thing. And for us, it is the creation of something we call the hub, or hubben in Swedish, which is a meeting place for the civil society to actually take part in a lot of things that we do within our comfort zone. We are opening up to other groups of people, to other groups of students, to other groups of children, to actually mix them up and do things together, because we feel that they don't even know what's happening, and that has to change. Thank you.
Thank you. Tack så mycket, Anna Gunnarsson from Navet Science Center. I think I was picturing while you were talking, taking from Sander, the idea of a technology envelope. I was thinking about an education envelope that is going to take us throughout all our lives. And of course, it is true that saying education is important is one thing, and then putting it in practice is another one.
Yeah, so we need to act on it.
Yes, exactly. And I'm extremely confident on your Swedish proposition, because I know how good you are doing it in, generally speaking, in Sweden. Of course, it's a stereotype, but it's okay.
As long as it's a good stereotype, yes, I'm fine. Thanks.
Exactly. Thank you very much. So let's go to culture and creativity and innovation. And let's hear it from Carlo Ferretti and Federico Bomba in a very, very synthetic and short way, please.
Yes, thank you. Well, our point of view is like that. We talk about like the technology that education embrace, and this case I would like to say that it could be like that art embrace. Or at least we will try with the next slide. We will try with advocate, or we'll try to move our point of view about and our observation about the role of the art and importance that the art has on different fields, in the impact that it has in the cross-fertilisation. So. No, sorry, can you come back 1 second? Yes, because it's important, like, to start this conversation, like starting from this quote, that is, the role of the artwork is no longer to form imaginary and utopian realities, but to actually be ways of living and models of action within the existing realm, whatever the scale chosen by the artist, by Bourdieu. And this is like the quote that in some way like help us to introduce like the conversation about the art and how the arts can, you know, like start new mechanisms of innovation, but not only, but even with the next slide, but even like helping us to in some way criticizing what is going on with the digital transformation, the societal transformation, and I would like to say even the environmental transformation. The European Bauhaus can be a really important, I would like to say, environment in order to change this perspective and give like more empowering, more power to the policies in helping the arts in order to be effectively helpful for the other fields. And I will finish like connecting with Sander again, because he talked about like the foundation. It's like the importance of the foundation in terms of values. And I would like to say that arts are really important in order to do that. We know like the impact of the arts in creating like culture capital, and like connecting with Chris Gertz said about the cultural capital as a connection of values that are shared by a community. So I pass the ball to Federico that will continue the presentation.
Thank you, Carlo. Please, Federico.
Yeah. Cinegloss, as we were saying, is another official partner of the European Bauhaus. So we believe in cross-fertilisation strategies. We don't call them Bauhaus, but we have called them Renaissance because of our background. But changing the period, more or less, the meaning is the same. So the cross-fertilisation between different competencies where art, science and political matters were all mixed together in the same workshop for creative innovation. So while Leonardo was doing La Gioconda, he was also doing the canals in Milan for the boats. And they were all coming from the same ground of people working together. And then after the, let's say, the Industrial Revolution, something happened with specialization, and technology was supposed to be our only hope because it was very well connected to a capitalism that has failed, obviously, for many reasons. So this, the role that we can have is to foster a new way of thinking after the post-Anthropocene and the post-capitalistic way of thinking that brought the old world in a certain area. Europe can be the third way, despite China and the United States. And artists can do that, dealing that with an opportunity. For many reasons, we still believe that art is painting, art are sculptures, and of course they are too, but art is basically how people question themselves in also the main societal challenges. So what artists can do and what we can do as Cinegloss and many other of the people who are here, of course, is challenging the societal challenges with the soft skills of the artists. So not with their capability of dancing or painting or of sculpting, but in the way in which they see the world. Can we please change the slide? Yeah, so I already said that. Basically, creativity is the key for different answers to usual question. We've been asking the same questions for a long time, and what we can do and what all our organizations can do is to try to give different answers. So I will just go to some examples of what we can, what we did. I will.
One, Federico,
one of the. Sorry.
Maybe just one, the most meaningful one for you.
Okay. The one I would introduce is Frontignano Artworks. This is a project in the Sibillini Mountains, which are mountains where it happened an earthquake in 2017 and all the villages were totally destroyed. Some local associations called us to create a new way of living and to imagine a new way of living with them there. So we are creating a land art park in Frontignano, which is 1,400 meters high in the mountain. It's a place which is very special. It's special because it is in the mountains, so it's a rural inner part of Italy, quite difficult to reach, and it's special because it's seismic, so it moves. So apparently it seems very difficult to live in that area. So if we manage to find a way of living in that area, respecting the nature and creating horizontal relationships with all the environment that we find there, we might have some new answers also for the way in which we should live in big cities. We are involving in these projects botanics, seismologists, artists, economists, historians, because we do believe that if we work all together in this new land art park, we can stimulate a new reflections on the way we will live in the next centuries.
Very good. Grazie mille, Federico. That was very interesting. And of course, your topic, it has a transversal role across all the Bauhaus and all the other topics. So it is important. One thing to point out, of course, is that there is a democratic challenge about the participation. And this is another transversal feature of this exercise, this conversation, that of course we are seeing how it is important to include and to value diversity in every topic. So from one mountain, the one of Frontignano, to another, and let's go to Bolzano, to Bozen, which is the German-speaking part of Italy, with Emanuele Boselli and the University of Bolzano. Please, Emanuele, the floor is yours, and the PowerPoint is coming up.
Thank you very much, Boris. I'm sorry for the lack of design and the creativity of my presentation. I just put some highlights.
We always need a bad student, Emanuele.
Okay. And yes, you can go to the next slide, please. What we think and we mean for food production and let's say sustainable food production in not only wine, I would say, because I think I will involve other colleagues related to other food products, are the social aspects related to food production and food culture, and the environmental, let's say, aspects. So food products may facilitate the dialogue between different cultures. We live, I think all of us live in cities where different cultures, at least in Italy, are difficult to integrate, and food products could enhance the coexistence if each of us has a better knowledge of the food culture of other people. At the same time, the primary sector, so agriculture, agro-food production, is one of the worst producers of wastes. For instance, in the water supply, there is a big problem in the waste of water during irrigations, in waste of agrochemicals and other products. We can go to the next slides, please. So, in my opinion, I thought that aesthetics and quality of the experience, increasing the quality of the experience of food and wine may promote the inclusion of different cultures to live in a better town, in a better urban environment. Maybe aesthetics may put the people closer and may make a better contact between the science, which is often seen as a very dry knowledge, together with the creative people. At the same time, probably we can in this way try to decrease the let's say, consumption of several foods that can create, for instance, atheism or obesity and other diseases. Yes, you can go to the next slide. So cross-fertilization. Cross-fertilization between us, like food technologists, and creative people like you. I don't want to put barriers, but you know, it is also good that we are making a hybridization of this approach. So this cross-fertilization could be very interesting because creative people can contribute to the food, to a better food design or a better wine design. And also to, as the colleagues said before, to enhance our working environment. Can you go to the next slides? So, for instance, in the case of architecture in which we are living, so the buildings, food factories or wineries, you know that there are some wineries planned and by Archistars. But even an improvement of the working environment can make life better, so can increase the quality of our lifestyle. And for this, we need your contribution, I think. At the same time, also objects like packaging of food products and wines, a better packaging can improve the environmental sustainability of these products.
Absolutely. So it is really about understanding what is the role of food and what is all the chain before it, so all the agriculture, and what is all the chain after it, so all the packaging, the distribution, and exactly, the marketing, and connect all this with the territory, not only in the urban environment but also in the rural environment, because it's a story that is traveling throughout the land and the soil. Thank you very much, sure, Emanuele. Grazie mille. And we are going to listen Kai and Christian from Spatial Foresight and how they intend to develop their topic, which is a future for all places and territorial cohesion. Please, Kai and Christian, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And here we have the slide. Well, our topic is basically really the future for all places and territorial cohesion. And on the next slide, you see the starting point, which is actually in the European Treaty, where an objective of the European Union is to have economic, social, and territorial cohesion. And that has been translated in a territorial agenda, which was renewed last year, saying we need a future for all places in Europe and for all people, spelled out in kind of a just and a green Europe. At the same time, we see that, for instance, with the COVID pandemic, actually disparities between place and people are just increasing. So cohesion is actually not in the picture. And if we move to the next slide, where we see how the Bauhaus can contribute is actually to broaden the debate. Because if we want to have that future, that is not a task for a single player. We need actually quite a lot of players from public, private, civil society, from all kinds of administrative levels to do that. But we also need to have a broad debate about what do we actually understand as territorial cohesion? What does it mean? And how do we picture a future for all places? And here I believe a dialogue as the Bauhaus initiative could contribute. If we move to the next slide, then we see that, in particular, that cross-fertilisation seems to us, as Christian, we had long discussions yesterday, very important. And typically in our field, we have a lot of exchange experience between places, so administrative units of regions or cities or countries, but we actually need more interaction also with different groups of society, different economic sectors, so not only think places, but think much wider as territory, and by that also cohesion is shaped by all people, all groups, all companies that are around. And still today, most of our decisions in public and private decision making are actually specialist blind and don't see what the implications are for different territories. So that is where we see the cross-fertilization. And next slide would be kind of our answer, and where we need more experiment. If we think about cohesion, there is no blueprint. There is not that fantastic plan which we just implement. We need a lot of creative ideas. We need a lot of testing and experimentation. At the same time, if we look at policy making, this testing ideas is actually not very popular because we always want to have for sure certain results. So we have this kind of result-oriented approach which prevents us from experimenting, as everybody is judged whether what you have done delivered results. So I think there we can, with the conversation, maybe move a step forward. And then we have another slide where we have kind of a few ideas or projects you asked for. It's the one, it's a territorial agenda I mentioned in the beginning. There are a number of pilot actions that really try to test things. And Christian and mine, two favorites are the one on climate change adaptation and resilience through the transition of landscape. And that's particularly in very small places where people are moving away and landscape is abandoned, and that actually creates problems in the climate change adaptation of very interesting character. I'm not going into details now. And the other one is kind of really small places methods. We talk usually, when we talk Europe, a lot about cities, the big places, the places that everybody can mention. But most people actually live in rather small places in rural areas, and they play an important role if we want to have a future for all places. So even to think about that. And there are more of those pilot actions. You find them on the website if you want to have the details. My kind of favorite right now is actually a WAAG, which stands for Visions Around the Baltic Sea, where they try in a co-creative process involving people from 11 countries to come up with what would be the future vision by 2040 for the Baltic Sea region, involving kind of Russia, Norway, kind of the north of Sweden to the south of Poland, and really find their way to jointly see what could be a vision. I think that was now very quick, and I think we have a last slide where, I think what we see is really that cooperation only works when we share things and give away material rather than kind of capturing it. And in that sense, we would try to engage people from around Europe for that conversation.
All right. Vielen Dank, Kai. Vielen Dank. It is interesting. No, once more, this idea of coming together, working together, and try to find a solution. And another thing that floats in my mind is, I think was Federico talking about, or maybe Carlo, talking about profitability as a constraint in some of our projects. And as you rightly said, there is also this need of have safe results to be proven by the time that the next election cycle gets in. So it is a difficult exercise, because one difference that we have today is that we are working in a fully, hopefully, democratic environment. We can discuss about that, but it is different from the Renaissance, and it is different from the exercise of the Weimar Republic, in which Gropius was trying to do something. So let's go back to Roberto to start this debate about what would Gropius do. Roberto, you have been listening to the 7 topics and how each organization is going to imagine to dig deeper into the topic. So do you have some thought or some keywords that you would like to share to start our debate?
No, I think that the question is clear. What would do Gropius today, not a century before? Perhaps the topic about cross-fertilisation is of course in all the speakers, and because we wanted to speak about it, of course. But I think it's very important to translate to the European Union the idea about that it's not necessary to translate literally the idea of Bauhaus to nowadays, because when we read about European Bauhaus, there are a lot of topics about architecture, about building, about species, and it seems that the key question is in physical aspects, how to transform the physical spaces and how to transform cities and territories in the physical space aspects. But I think, of course, these aspects are very, very important. But I think that we can go in a deeper reflection, because I think that the question is not only how to build a more beautiful Europe. The question is how arts, culture, and creativity can contribute not only in aesthetic aspects, but in ethic, critical thought, in different ways to do things, in different ways to build new questions. Because I think that the key is not only in the answers. We are looking answers with all questions, with the questions that Gropius did a century before, and we need to look for new questions, because there are not certain answers if the questions are not right.
Yes, exactly.
We need to build new questions, and perhaps arts, culture, and creativity can be a way, not only not the only way, of course, but can be a good way to look for new questions, and of course to look for new answers for sustainability in Europe.
Thank you very much, Roberto. So what would Gropius do today, 1 century later? If you have this kind of set of skills, of competencies in education, in art, and you want to do something in a very radical way, because Gropius was not in a mainstream position back then, 1 century ago. So if you have the possibility to put together something that looks like a school, but that wants to provide new the society with new disciplines, with a holistic vision, if you want to push society in a better direction, and of course considering the challenges that we have today, social sustainability. Anna have been mentioning it in a very, very good way. It is about inclusion, and it is about diversity, and it was also partly mentioned by Michal in the topic of how we can engage citizens in a good way to build a better urban environment. And it was really interesting also the switch in the point of view, of Sander on one side with this sectional view, and on the other side Paulina with this quote about Google, because it is not only about Google that we are searching for Google, it is also Google searching for us, but it happens in different ways. And of course, I have to remind the geographical dimension, because it is not only about urban development, but it is also how we can connect the city with the rest of the territory. And this is a key factor in the speech of Kai and Emanuele. Of course, everything permeates through arts and culture. And we get back to Federico and Carlo. So who wants to get started with a thought, with an inspiration? Or if you don't have one, I'm going to take the one that we have on the chat.
I want to say,
please, Roberto,
one thing more about the question that Federico has wrote in the chat. The relation between software and hardware, yeah, I think it's very important, because the focus in Europe is about industry, mainly about industry, and about hard technologies. And we need to introduce the soft technologies. We need to introduce
what do you mean by soft technology, Roberto?
New methodologies from human science, from arts, from culture, with other point of views. Because in my introduction, I spoke about the focus, for example, in digitalisation that I think Paulina was speaking about, and what happened. I think that we are always thinking about efficiency, about how to grow, but in an industrial way. For example, here I always say that the Basque people, we think in iron.
The Basque people, yes, because of the industry, heritage, yes.
It's in iron. Perhaps in Poland and in other places is the same, and it's very difficult to introduce that. That is not enough to get the multidisciplinary. We need to go towards transdisciplinary, and perhaps we need first interdisciplinary. But our goal is to get transdisciplinary. How to mix science methodologies with arts methodologies, and to get that everyone recognize that arts and culture are another way to get knowledge. It's not always a way to get beautiful.
So let's hear it from the participants. So I would say, because of the topic, I would like to hear it from Sander, Paulina, and Anna, and then a transversal inspiration or word by Federico or Carlo, and then we are going to listen to Michal, Emanuele, and Kai. So Sander.
Thank you, Boris. And it's interesting because I feel like we are already in this conversation. You can see the different participants presenting their different theme, but you already see the cross connection between this. So this transdisciplinary that Robert is talking about, I think, is very important. And already I was thinking maybe as a next series of conversations, we could bridge the two different themes and have conversations about the intersection of that, because I think this is the kind of combination that we need. We need to better understand the relationships between the different topics that are often still dealt with in silos. So I think this is very interesting comment. And then the combination between software and hardware, I think, is a really powerful metaphor as well. We see it in a literal sense when we think about sort of the way in which we design and the architecture of the buildings in a physical sense, and then the software that are on our phones, where we spend a lot of our time in the digital places, and which offers a lot more opportunity for European collaboration than is currently materialized, because we rely on the social media platforms and ways of exchanging information that is dominated by big tech companies with profit maximization as their sort of key motive. So I think there is an opportunity for European alternatives that can serve as inspiration, because I think that's the final point I wanted to make, is that as WAAG, we're also part of the STARTS network, so this is the science and technology and arts combination. And I think it is crucial to involve the creative approaches and the artistic approaches in thinking through how to design and imagine these new places, both in the physical realm and the digital realm. I think it's quite interesting. I wanted to make that small comment. And spatial foresight, I think the presentation was really nice to shift the thought about the ways in which borders and boundaries are sometimes restricting our thoughts. So I wanted to give a shout out to that, because I thought that was inspirational as well. Thank you, Sander. So Paulina, I think you have something to say about this, because when we talk about the challenges that we have on the side of hardware and the side of software, of course, it is partly your topic, because on one side you have the industry that is, as Roberto put it, we think in iron, and on the other side we have all these challenges about technology applied to the industry. So what is your take? What is your point of view about this?
I think at this point, I feel like we're super lucky that we can see that we are a part of the change. So previously, when the revolution was happening, no one knew actually that the revolution is happening, like the industrial revolution. We only could reflect on what happened in the past and then learn from them and so on. But now actually we are in the point where it's on us, where we can decide how the future will be looking like and how the future will be shaped by our actions. So in relation to digitalization and industry, we have such an opportunity to change the way we are acting now and change the approaches and learn and use all the interdisciplinary approaches. So it will be more inclusive, more great to environment.
Yes, absolutely. And Anna, in this conversation that we are painting, that we are depicting, what do you think is the weakest link where we can really go and act to move things forward?
I think education is crucial as a partner and as a drive for the change, because we have the kids, we have the young people, of course, but there are issues that actually need to be addressed. And one thing is that, like a tradition, I would almost say, school is way behind sometimes.
Why?
Schools are not informed about where the forefront is. Schools are not... they don't have enough trained teachers as we speak now, especially when it comes to all science issues, technology issues that are the drive of the European Bauhaus and other things in sustainability. So I think we reach not enough individuals in school that actually feels that they get knowledge about what the future may hold. We don't know about the future, but we need to raise the interest in our young ones. And the interest, I think, is more raised if you feel that there is work to be done. There are challenges to be aimed at. There are like interesting fields to explore. And I don't think that really happens in schools enough, because if you look at most our schools right now, walk into them, you don't actually feel that you're in 2021. It looks
they don't feel like they are part of the story. They don't.
No,
the conversation.
Not the forefront story. And that needs to change.
Yes, Federico or Carlo, who wants to take it from here and to think about what are the constraints where we can act Is this the key? Is it to go from the multidisciplinary level to the interdisciplinary level?
Federico?
Very useful, Carlo. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it can be the key actually, but what is the real European key to me is to set values, shared values on what is multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary. We can't just accept the fact that we can accept anything, but what Europe differs the most in respect to United States and China, I just quote them because they are the superpowers, is that one of them, in China, you cannot really share and choose the values, basically, because they are chosen by the dictatorship. In the United States, the values are given by, like, the public space retreats from the private investigation on values and gives the opportunity to the Silicon Valley to be the dictator of the values, essentially, or to be, I wouldn't say dictatorship, but to...
let's say they have a big weight. Yes, they have a big weight, they have their say. Yes, okay.
What happens here, we have to take, to find a shared common public space for this interdisciplinary works and connections must create the opportunity not to think about just the hardware that we talked about, but about the software. And
yes,
interdisciplinary thing will work just if we are very clear on the fact that we are establishing shared values, not just unvalued or neutral common ground.
Okay, so let's talk about the public space with Michal, because I think he has a pretty good idea of how the public space can be used for inclusion and to make everybody feel part of the story, everybody feel part of the conversation. Michal.
Yeah, thank you. I was just thinking of this connection between hardware and software, because this was the basic narrative behind the European Capital of Culture project we have,
yes,
which was named Interface. So we understood the city as an interface between culture as a program and the citizens as a user. So city was the hardware which enables that, or the interface which enables this connection with all, not only physical environment, but what we really have to take care and take into consideration is that it's the way how people can use and communicate in that public space, whether this public space opens up and enables the democratic activities, using also technologies, for instance, because as Sanders said, that it's not only physical space which is public at the moment. There is much more, I call it a public domain, which is connection in online or digital world where people really communicate. And this is something very complicated in terms of understanding how city could, or
absolutely.
How cities could contribute to those public domains which are not physical. And I would like to react on Anna that education,
please,
and skills which are taught in the schools are really far behind what's contemporary, not even talking about the future. And my opinion is that somehow society doesn't really value those skills, which, for instance, the World Economic Forum really forecasted every 5-10 years, that creativity, critical thinking, it's just, we have to take it more seriously. As Anna said, we have to take action. It's not just the reference point it has to be real. So we should somehow act towards that.
Yes, and I think that also Federico was pointing out something important. If I connect all not all, but some of the dots, we have this idea of a common shared space that can be physical, can be public, but not only. It can be virtual, and in both levels there are some shared values. The difference is that in the public space the values are a set of democratic values because it is public, but in the virtual space it is not always so, and values can be decided and established by other authorities. So I think that in all this, as in every society, there is a totem and there is a taboo. I think that something that can have like a totemic function that we can also all recognize each other around is exactly what Emanuele was talking about, which is the physical transformation of the soil into something that gives us life, no, in a way, which is food, which is wine, and around which we can recognize the values of our region, of our place, isn't it, Emanuele?
Yes, I think I have 2 points regarding this.
Please.
Would like to highlight 2 points. We have a lot of digitalization technologies. When digitalization started, let's say our expectancies were very high. But at the end, what we realize, for instance, in agriculture and food productions, is that not all these technologies are properly applied to enhance the sustainability of food productions.
What do you mean?
For instance, farmers, because of the lack of instruction, probably, of education, are still using old methods, because there is no change in, how do you say, generation. The generation is the old generation. So young people are not taking over the enterprises of the parents, for instance. And the other point is that digitalization is, there is a risk that, and I see the risk that digitalization is used now to increase the barriers and not to destroy the barriers between social groups. Yeah. And
yes, it is really an important take, Emanuele. You are definitely right. And I think what is interesting is that, of course, Gropius was living in his own period, and he was using his own, let's call it zeitgeist, the spirit of those times. He was materializing the challenges of his time when he was thinking about the Bauhaus and how to shape a different world. Well, we all know how it did go, but the ideas of Gropius survived the Second World War, and they were put in place afterwards. So when we think about barriers, of course, we are going to end this round of conversation with Kai and Christian, who is going to have something about, because when it comes to equality, cohesion, inclusiveness, diversity, of course, we need to consider the territorial dimension. Kai.
Yes, I start and then Christian takes over. I quite liked what Anna said about actually nobody should be left behind, and I think that translates very well to us. And for me, that echoes also with Federico. There needs to be a shared value so that we actually have the feeling of being in it together. And listening on the conversation this afternoon, I have the feeling actually if you take arts, culture, food, education, and technology, maybe that should be the vehicles or should inspire the thinking about how Europe should look like, what would be our vision for Europe, and what would be the profile or the future for all the different places, be it small, be it big, be it east, west, north, south, whatever. So in a way, using that transversal point of saying that is maybe a more appropriate way to think about Europe instead of the formalistic policy way we are used to. And also keeping in mind that whenever we talk about cohesion, it doesn't mean that we all should be the same. It just kind of means that we need to cherish the diversity by still leaving nobody or no place behind and getting that shared value, and maybe that idea of the shared space that came up as well, saying we need a shared public domain or something. So that echoes for me very well. And I was thinking, if Gropius would live today, what would he do to really challenge our mental frameworks? That's what he did for me, kind of challenge his time's mental frameworks.
Yes.
And picking a little bit on what Christian said, I believe he would actually abolish national borders and maybe even the nation state. That would lead us to need to think completely differently and what is a solution. And with that, I hand over to Christian, as borders and border areas are his healthy horse.
Final word.
Yeah, I would maybe continue with one word. Kai mentioned, this diversity. That's maybe also an interesting point, and leaving no one behind. Everybody should play a role and we are in this together. But of course, considering diversity, the question is it possible that everybody can be in this together? Will there just be winners of such a process where we incorporate more ideas and develop new ideas for a new European Bauhaus, or will there also be losers of such a process? I think that's also an important element. We discussed now many aspects that go in the direction, how can we go to a more beautiful, more sustainable, more digital Europe? But what does this specifically mean for different groups of society, for different places? So is it a utopia, or is it really possible to make it a reality for everybody, that everybody benefits from this? So I think it's quite important to develop convincing argument. Boris, you mentioned in the beginning that Gropius was not mainstream in his time. And I think for us, it's important that also what we discussed, it's not mainstream in our times. It's not mainstream yet in policy making.
Let's stick to the edge. Let's go to the edge and see what we can do from there.
Exactly. I think that's the important point, really, to get into the sphere of policy, not only policy making, the input side, but also the output side, like policy delivery, so that we really find convincing arguments. And I think that's the beauty also of this format, to find new arguments that strengthen our position in the discourse.
And now we have this open conversation with the European Commission, and of course we have this window of opportunity to work together and send them our ideas to make the conversation. And thank you very much, Ďakujem, Michal Hladký, for the topic of sustainable and inclusive city creative industry, Kosice from Slovakia, and dankjewel, Sander van der Wal, WAAG Technology&Society Center in the Netherlands for digitalization and governance. And dziękuję bardzo, Paulina Kiziel from PPNT Design Center, Poland. She's the creative director, and they are going to work on smart industry and services and education, human development for sustainability, Navet Science Center from Sweden. Anna Gunnarsson, tack så mycket Anna, and grazie mille. Matera Hub, Carlo Ferretti, Sineglossa, Federico Bomba, for the topic of cultural creativity and innovation, and for the topic of bioeconomy, food and health, from the northernmost university of Italy, Emanuele Boselli, grazie mille, and future for all places and territorial cohesion, vielen Dank, to Kai Bume and Christian Luer of Spatial Foresight. One last word to Roberto, and of course Escaricasco, muchas gracias Begoña, for the production of all this session. Roberto.
We remind everyone that between 3 and 11, June 3 and 11, it's the leading organization will promote a thematic meeting, but also from the diversity of views and with a different focus on the interdisciplinary treatment of European challenges.
Remember, you have all the information in our social media and our website. And again, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Begoña. Thank you, Boris. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you
for your contributions. They have been really interesting and really from diverse perspectives. Thanks again to the participants, to the Basque government for supporting us in the project, and to other Basque partners of the European Bauhaus with whom we are actively collaborating. And see you soon. Thank you very much again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you
Bye.
soon.
Ciao.